up and offer a blessing over not only the food we're about to enjoy, but our whole time together today. Pastor Floyd.
Thanks, let's pray. God, we thank you for this amazing day that we can live and breathe and just feel and know that you're in our life. We thank you for each person that's here and the ministries that they represent. And God, I pray that you would this would be a real blessing for each person that's here. God, as we look at the family, as we look at how we can involve ourselves in our city to be your hands and feet, I pray that you would just stir our hearts and that you would put the church into action here. It already is, that you just do even just greater things than we could ever ask or imagine. And we claim that. And so for our lunch, we thank you for the hands that have prepared it. We thank you that we can eat together in fellowship and answer phones. In Jesus' name.
Take two. Well, good morning again. And as one of our practices here at TMA is we like to show videos of things that are going on in our community that are making a difference. And one of those videos is coming up next. You continue to eat your lunch, enjoy the fellowship, and we'll watch this together.
It's David Gonzalez, and the group here we call ourselves Blessed Beans. And we come out here every Saturday morning, feeding the homeless. We started off about 20, 30 bean burritos, and now we're doing about 90 to 100. God blessed us with everything, and we just want to bless others back. And we would love to just encourage people to come out, whatever calling God has in their lives, go for it, do it. We're doing it, and it's amazing. Sweet. So this is an interactive community mural project that we're putting out here at the Young Life House there. What we're doing is celebrating Valentine's Day and Arizona's 103rd birthday by doing something where everybody gets to come together, hang out, have fun, coffee, everything, and just contribute a little bit on the mural as to why they love where they live. We just wanted to get community together, people meeting each other, and just hanging out. And it's been a great time so far.
First 6 months have heard of you for 30, 40, 50 years, or you're studying blessed to pray, and you just started 2 weeks ago. Your calling, your job, your task, your partnership with the Holy Spirit and earth is super important.
Really great source of law. I know that this is really entirely mechanism that goes like things, like some things. I don't know the joins and explains why it's making things get wrong.
Here we are on 5th Street in front of Ross Cruz Elementary on the first day of launch of the bike service squad. And we'll see what happens today. Big old piece of bubble grass here on 6th Street right here downtown. Friends are going after it, serving their city.
For putting the videos together, but as it's said at the end, if you know something that's going on and you have something to share and would love to do a video and be able to get it up, we would like to share it here at Tucson Ministry Alliance. And so you can email Mike and be able to get information from him about how to go about doing that. Well, today we're going to be talking about the health of the family. And the Tucson Ministry Alliance board met last fall, and we were putting the topics together. It came out of the time that we had prior to that, when we had a number of pastors and leaders come together. And our next advisory board meeting is April. I think it's April 6th. Is that correct? April 6th? Yeah, April 6th. If you have some time available from 9 to 11 a.m. on Thursday, April 6th, we're going to be meeting at 5151 Broadway, and we would love to get your input, because one of the things that we do, we want to get feedback from those of you who are participating with us in Tucson Ministry Alliance at these monthly luncheons, because we want to get a report on how do you think we're doing so far, and then also what can we do to make course corrections and or add things to what we want to be able to do to finish out the year. So if you are available April 6th, 16th, okay. I knew the 6th was right in there. All I had to do is add 10 more days to it. So it's April 16th, Thursday, April 16th, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And we're really prompt at getting you out of there, because we know your time is valuable. So if you could join us for the advisory board meeting, just to give us some feedback and input, we would love to have you there. And as we're talking about the health of the family, this is really a 2-month and a 2-pronged effort. Today we're talking about the health of the family in general, and then next month in April we're going to be talking about a very important aspect of families that so often in the church we don't talk about enough, and that's the single-parent family. And we have a very special program planned for next month as well. But you know, when we talk about the family, I found that even Wikipedia knows how God has designed a family to operate. And I found this because on Wikipedia it came up and it says, how to have a wholesome Christian family. And the family, it said, is the basic social unit around which everything in society revolves. As the family goes, so goes society. If you destroy the family, you will destroy civilization. A strong, wholesome family is the strength of our society. He goes on to say that real Christians are citizens of heaven living in a hostile world. It is a blessing to be able to return home to those who love Christ. The home is where we find spiritual agreement and purpose. Here is where we build Christian character and teach sound doctrine within the privacy of the family unit. Here is where love begins, kindness is shown, and loyalty is instilled. Our children should not be often absent from the home. They should be taught to spend their spare time at their own home. We need to remember that, be it ever so humble, there's no place like home. Well, I think we would all agree with these statements that I found on Wikipedia. There's no mystery to us here in this room about what a wholesome family, a good godly family should be, should act like. But so often we know in our head what those things would be, and then at the same time we find it very difficult to, okay, let's put these things into practice. We have those questions like, how can we build a strong family unit? What are some practical ways I can engage with my family in meaningful ways? And today we're going to attempt to try and give you some of those very good answers to those critical questions. Our guest today, our keynote speaker, is a man, David Lynn, who has a 30-year ministry veteran here in Tucson, who has written numerous books and articles and games, including best-selling talk sheets that he has available. In fact, he brought some of his material with him today. He, along with his wife Kathy, are co-developers of the Home and Church Ministry. It's homeandchurch.com is their website. It's a ministry that empowers churches, equips parents, and enables homes to pass on faith to children and youth. And that, my friend, is what we are supposed to be all about, is passing on our faith. David and Kathy developed Make Mealtime Family Time, a popular initiative that promotes sharing with family meal times. David and Kathy live in Tucson, and they are the parents of 2 grown children. Would you welcome, please, David Lynn as he comes to share with us.
Thank you for that warm welcome. Does everybody have one of the Strengthening Family Life brochures? If you don't have one, raise your hand. If you have to, we'll pick one to you. Or Steve would have one. So, all right. Steve mentioned our books. We sold about, I think, 400,000 copies of the clock sheets, but we need to sell some more because our daughters in grad school. So, please buy. The purpose of this talk today is to introduce you to the Connect, Communicate, Care model of strengthening family life. We have about 15 minutes. If you could hold your questions till the end, because we don't have a lot of time. I'm trying to make sure I leave room for some questions at the end. Make sure I have the slide up there. All this stuff is in your brochure, so you don't have to write a lot of stuff down. But we have 3 questions for you. So we'd like you to look at this question. What do you think about strong family, the strength of families? Are they stronger? I better look at my brochure to make sure I get it right. Are they much stronger than when you grew up? Are they about the same as when you grew up? Or are they not at all as strong as when you grew up? How many of you think they're stronger today than when you grew up? Raise your hand. That's the same reaction I always get. Yeah, we've got a problem with the family, don't we? And we need to focus on how we're going to strengthen the family. And yet, unfortunately, we set up conditions in our congregations after World War II where everything is age-graded, which was very appropriate model for the time, but we're finding it's not so appropriate for today. We're going to have to start looking at some new ways of doing ministry if we want to strengthen family life and if we want to pass on faith to the next generation. Don't worry about changing, though, if you don't worry about passing on faith. If you're not worried about that, then you don't have to change. But if you are, you can't keep business as usual. This is an observation that I have. The model that we have in here is research-based. This is Dave Lynn's clinical path for doing therapy for lots of years. Probably should have been in therapy, but from doing therapy for lots of years. In the past, you'll see up there the normal curve under the past. You know, most families were average, and if you know the bell curve on the left-hand side of the curve, you know, it's that would be the weaker side, and the other side is the stronger side. And most families were average families. They weren't really strong, but they weren't really weak. What I'm sensing today is very, very different. And that's this graphic over here. We have struggling families or strong families, and not a lot in between. We have a lot of struggling families, and there's variations in that struggle, and lots of strong families, but not a lot of families in the middle. A lot of struggling families who are going to need a lot of help. So this research is based on Search Institute. Many of you probably read Search Institute research. This is based on Search Institute YMCA study, and they were looking at, are families going it alone? Are they getting help from their extended family? Are they finding help in their congregation? Are they talking with their friends? Are they talking with other parents? So what do you think? The answer is in the, I guess it's not in the brochure. The answer will be next. A lot of surprising, well, they're getting some help, aren't they? No, the answer is most parents are going it alone. Whether you're a strong family or a not so strong family, struggling family. The research also says that families who ask for help tend to be stronger families than families who don't ask for help. Very clear in the research. But what are most families doing? They're just gutting it out. They're going alone. They're not getting help from their congregation. They're not asking other parents, their friends. They're not getting any sort of counseling. They're going it alone. Now, you know some of these families if you're on Facebook. There are some parents, however, they're using Facebook to get support. How many families you know who will post a question about parenting? That's got to be the worst way to reach out for help, is to post it on Facebook, right? But there are families that are doing that because it's more anonymous, because they're crazy. I don't know. But most families are going it alone today. What does that say about our culture? I want you just to take 1 minute at your table and talk about if most families are going along. What does that say about our culture? And maybe I should just give you 30 seconds since I only have 15 minutes. What does that say about our culture that most families are going along? Do a neighbor nudge and talk at your table. Go. We've got a broken culture. What's somebody else? What did you talk about? Isolated culture. Yes.
We've got to get off the electronics because they are isolated.
We've got to get off the electronics. I mean, you go out to eat, right? Mom and dad and the kids are all texting.
Each other.
I see kids each other. I see kids texting in church and worship. And I was going, I said, you better be texting Jesus. Okay, 1 minute. What does that say? Parents going alone. What does it say about opportunities for our congregation? Take a minute and talk about that. What does that say about opportunities for our congregation? Go.
So we have an opportunity.
What does that say about opportunities for our congregations? 2 people. Raise your hand, please.
Many.
Say that again.
Many opportunities.
Many opportunities. Anybody else? Overwhelming. We have so many opportunities out there. For the unchurched, for the D-church, you've probably heard studies on the D-church. The unchurched have never gone to church. We got millions of people who are done with church. They're D-church. They grew up in church, maybe in their teens or 20s, even their 30s, they dropped out, and they're just waiting for somebody to ask them back. And their families are hurting. And we're not asking. Let's go on. In that same study, it looked at what are some of the issues with the demands on family life that parents set. And we have finances, overscheduling, jobs. Those are all three real big ones that the study said. What else? What are some other things that families are facing, that parents are facing? We don't want to talk at the table, just name them out. Some of the issues that parents are having today.
Rebellion.
There's rebellion on the part of the parents or the kids? Oh, yeah. There's a lot of self-centeredness, a lot of narcissism going around. What else? Yes.
Geography, we moved apart.
Geography. We used to live by extended family, and for jobs or whatever reason we moved apart. Yes, sir.
Adult children returning home.
Adult children returning home. I have a friend who does homework. It's a radio program. He told me recently, he said, you know, most of my calls, you know, I'm focused on adolescents, most of my calls are from parents who have 20-somethings that have returned home. They've returned home. Okay, yes, sir.
Missing dads.
Missing dads. And some missing moms. Yes, sir.
Overwhelming substance abuse.
Over what?
Substance abuse.
Substance abuse. A lot of substance abuse. We're going to see more as we legalize marijuana. That's just, you know, in Colorado, we're seeing that increase. So you're going to see more. Somebody got their hand up over here. I missed it. Yes, sir.
Generational sin.
Generational sin keeps going generation to generation. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Teen moms.
Teen moms.
Children raising children.
Children raising children. Lots of demands on the family. This is our passage for today, taken from Ephesians. It's a contemporary English version. I use that one because it has a third grade reading level. So Randy and I can read that Bible. I know the NIV, the ESV, they have big words in there. We use the CEV because children can read it, and that's why we're using CEV. Parents, don't be hard on your children. Raise them properly. Teach them, instruct them about the Lord. There you go, right there. Talks over with, right? And yet that's a hard passage to live out. But that's our passage for today. I'm going to give you just a couple ideas of strengthening family life before we get into the model. These aren't all the ideas; they're just a couple of the ideas. These are all in your brochure, so you don't have to write them down. The first one is train faith-caring adults. Our kids need other adults other than mom and dad. They need faith-caring adults in their life. The 8 Faith Factors research says that they need at least 3. The stuff out of Fuller is saying 5. Wow, I'm going to go with 3 because I'm not sure we can get 5. But 3 to 5 faith-caring adults from birth to age 18, other than parents, to be passing on faith. I'm not talking about the volunteer in the youth group that plays games with kids, although that's important. I'm talking about meaningful mentoring on the part of faith-caring adults. That is one way to strengthen family life. Because it takes a congregation to raise a kid, not just the parents. It takes the whole congregation. And we've alienated young people from adults in our congregations, right? And we fragmented the family. They don't even come to church anymore. The average family, you watch them. The teenager has his car, mom has her car, dad. I mean, we are fragmenting the family. So we need to find ways for those faith-caring adults to care about kids. The second one, we need to affirm. This was that Search Institute study said we're not even affirming families for what they're doing right. We need to affirm families from the pulpit, in emails, in one-on-one conversations, on Facebook. We need to find ways to affirm families for what they're doing right. Because even in the struggling families, they're doing something right. What I don't want to hear, and I hear a lot, is, well, parents don't care about their kids. Moms and dads love their kids. Even in the most dysfunctional families, they love their kids. They're just struggling. They don't know what to do. It's a difficult culture we live in. But they love their kids. So please don't say, oh, those parents, they just don't love their kids. They do. They just don't know how. So we need to affirm them for what they're doing right. We need to provide those supportive groups. for parents. Whether it's once a week, once a month, we need to provide opportunities for parents to be real. I was recently speaking in Phoenix in a church. We do this thing for families, strengthening family life. We had, I don't know, it was a big church. There was a couple hundred parents there. Afterwards, parents always come up. This mom, Beth, waited till there was nobody. The youth pastor was out in the back in the lobby. And she comes up and she says, I don't know what to do. My daughter says she's a lesbian. She's 16. I can't talk to anybody in my church about this. That's wrong. She had to talk to a guy she never met before. That's wrong. Now, she doesn't have to get up front and tell everybody, but there needs to be a safe place for people to say things like, this, that my kid is hurting about this, or I'm hurting about this in my family. They can't go alone, folks. They can't. They need opportunities. Strengthen marriages. I know Steve does a ministry. He calls himself a marriage missionary and does a ministry to strengthen marriage. I know Randy's doing a lot with marriage. I know Randy's talking about doing a conference with marriage. Oh, we need to strengthen marriage today. We need to strengthen marriage. Steve and I were talking. I know I'm old, but when I grew up, nobody was divorced. My kids asked me, one of my children asked me, are you longing to get divorced? No. Well, maybe, I don't know. I haven't talked to Mom yet, but I don't think so. Because a bunch of her friends at school, this was an elementary school, were divorced. It affects us even if we don't get divorced. Our culture is a culture of divorce. We need to strengthen marriage. And there's lots of resources out there to do it. And I'm glad that we have Steve. I'm glad that we have Randy here to help us strengthen marriage. You want strong families? Strengthen marriage. This is one that Christian Smith has done a lot of research. He's at the University of Notre Dame, was at the University of North Carolina. He's had 3 cohorts of kids starting in junior high and high school. They're down in their late 20s, early 30s. He found 2 things that pass on faith. And y'all know the statistic. There's so many books out about it now. 75% of our kids are dropping out of church by the end of high school. Y'all already know that. The Barna research says, and so does Christian Smith, the ones who stick around are losing 60% in their 20s. That's leaving us with 12 to 15%. Now, in the day, it used to be with baby boomers dropped out, but they came back and they had children. Not happening anymore. The few that come back are wounded. So here's what Christian Smith said. Listen carefully to this. This is all you get out of this talk. 2 things that pass on faith. Parents are the #1 influence on faith in the lives of their children. Everybody else pales in comparison, including you as pastors, youth pastors, counselors, teachers. Parents, for good or bad, are the ones that pass on faith. The second thing that passed on faith is cross-generational spiritual experiences in congregations. Those 2 things, nothing else. Those are the 2 things we need to focus on. We need to equip parents to strengthen their families and to pass on a faith that lasts beyond high school. And we need to have more cross-generational experiences. And that's more than just a potluck. We're good at eating together, aren't we? And that's good. But it's got to have some biblical content to it. Again, keep eating together. But also, kids need to see that adults have faith. We've had a training since I've been in college, grad school, where we have separated kids from adults. And starting with kids, what do? First, we've gone to the 1-hour culture. We're running out of time, aren't I? We've gone to this 1-hour culture where kids are in worship, or kids are in Sunday school and adults are in worship. Folks, we are Sunday schooling our kids right out of the congregation. They need to be in worship. That is the most significant cross-generational experience that our children and youth have. And we've created youth worship, and I'm not against youth worship unless it takes the place of corporate worship. Not against kids being by themselves. Kids need to be with other kids, but not all the time. Kids also need to be with adults in your congregations so that faith is passed on. Ever since our kids were little, we put them in worship with us, and people would always come up to Kathy and I, and they would always say, well, why don't you have your kids in worship? They're not getting anything out of it. My response was always the same. We don't have our kids in worship so that they can get something out of it. We have them in worship so they can watch you get something out of it. Because modeling is the #1 way children learn. I do remember this. My daughter was 6 or 7, I don't know, young. She was in worship. People were always giving us looks because they're whispering and talking. I just give them back. And she asked, Dad, what did you just say? What does that mean? I wasn't listening to the sermon. She finally asked her first question, and I'm off somewhere else. Fortunately, I'm a product of Sunday school, so I said, he's talking about Jesus. That's a safe answer, right? Our kids need to be in worship and other cross-generational experiences. So if you got youth group, maybe have the parents come once a month. And I know kids say, oh, they want to be with their parents. That's wrong. They do. They want to be with their parents, and they want to be with other adults. Okay. Connect, communicate, care. In your brochure, sorry, I'm running over time. Connect, communicate, care. There's 9 things. This is research. This is Nick's Danae's research. If you want to look it up, Google Nick's Danae, S-T-E-E-N-N-E-T, 2 T's, and he's done research on, 27,000 families in 30-something countries. So this is cross-cultural. These are the 9 things that if you do these things as a family, you will have a strong family. So I'm going to ask you this question. I'm not going to read them off to you. I'm going to ask you this question. Which 2 of the 9 is your congregation encouraging the most? Take 1 minute. Steve will be done in 3. 1 minute. Which of the 9 things is your congregation encouraging the most? Or which 2? Take 1 minute. Go. All right. I know I didn't give you much time. We don't have much time. I apologize. What's one of them? One that you're actually really doing a great job at. What's one of them? Okay. Somebody's got to be doing something, right? Yes. What's that? Number 9. Christ-centered. Research tells us that Christ needs to be in the DNA of the family. It needs to be the identity of family. Then somebody said number 1, enjoying time together. All right. Which one of the 9 are you doing that's I'm sorry, that you're neglecting? Which 2 are you neglecting? Take 1 minute, talk about that. 2 that you're neglecting, go. Which one are we neglecting? Which 1 or 2 are we neglecting? Yes. Number 8. Yeah, how to handle life challenges. So that's a big one. We need to help families do that. Any others? One more. One more that we're neglecting. Number 6. Number 6. Yeah, rituals and traditions. We are an under-ritualized culture. And we don't realize that it's rituals and traditions that pass on faith values. So, the last one is pick the one you want to work on in your congregation. I'm going to let you to think about that as you go home. Thanks for giving me this time. Appreciate it. I'll turn it over to Steve. Thank you.
I can tell that if we'd had 90 minutes per day, we would have gotten a lot more. And unfortunately, because of the format of TMA, we can't do that in this setting. However, he and his wife Kathy are here. They've got some of the materials. I know that they would love to talk to you more about this because it's their passion to instill in the churches in our city and across the nation these values that are so critical if we want to see the tide turned in our congregations today. So thank you, Dave. Thank you, Kathy, so much for what you do. The second part of our time together today is we want to talk about something in the family realm that is so critical in our community. And this is something we've talked about on a fairly regular basis here at TMA. And that is, what are we doing to help those in the foster care system? Not only the children, and there is such a tremendous need there, but what are we doing to help those who serve in the foster care system? And Pastor Floyd Morgan, one of my good friends, and we have maintained communication over the past number of months. And this has been a passion of Floyd's and at Christ Community Church. And Floyd is going to introduce this next segment of our time together today. And I really want you to pay close attention to this as well.
Well, what you find as we talk at our table is we notice that you look at the opportunities, and for families, there's huge need, but the problem is parents aren't proactive. You can't get them to parenting events. You can't get them places they need to be. Life is crazy. People are in a level of crisis. But I want to introduce a chance for your church organization to really get on top of something that can be really amazing and follow the same kind of network and what we're doing in our church school partnerships. This is our DCS and church partnerships. And Department of Child Safety, used to be CPS, now DCS. And so what happens is we're at a level of crisis at that point that allows people many times to make changes in their lives personally and also in the family. And so we got an incredible opportunity for you to plug in the same way you plugged into the schools. And so I want to introduce to you, make sure I get this right, Peter, Regional Program Director of DCS, which is calling the Chichi. So great to have you here, and we've spent a few months really putting this thing together. You'll see these sheets of paper on your table. You can follow along with some of that.
Thank you, and good afternoon. It's truly a blessing to be here today, and I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity to speak to you about the Department of Child Safety and our church partnership. And a partnership that is going to help us reach out and respond to the 3,378 children that we currently have in foster care here in King County alone. In the state of Arizona, it's over 17,000 children. And these are children who've been removed from their homes because we have found that it's not safe for them to be there due to child abuse and neglect. And so to protect, and oftentimes to protect children, the only alternative is to remove them from the home. And although that's necessary, that comes at huge cost for children. They not only lose their family, but they ultimately can lose their whole community. For many, they are separated from their siblings, they lose their mama, they lose their nana, their papa, their aunties, their uncles, their friends, their pets, their home, their favorite school teacher, and for many, they lose their church. Now the hope is that when those children are removed from the home, that gives us time to work with the family. And our hope is that we'll strengthen the family, that will remove those risk factors and those safety issues that cause the children to be removed. The hope is that children can return quickly to a home that's safer, stronger, healthier than it was when the children were removed. And if we can't do that, then the hope is that we find another family that will step in and be that parent and give that child a loving and safe home. So how do we do that? How do we inspire change? The answer is that we have to get together. We must do this together. We must all agree that the goal of protecting children from harm and helping them to succeed is a shared responsibility. We must agree that in order to improve the life of children and vulnerable families, we must surround them with support, we must provide them with care and love in the community in which they live. We need to look at children in the context of families, and we must look at the family in the context of the community they live in. And as Floyd has said, you do have a pamphlet and a handout that we have provided you, and we've worked on this mission statement together with our church partners and the Department of Child Safety to talk about why this partnership exists, to care for Tucson's children and that department and the Department of Child Safety workers through service, donation, ministries, encouragement, and most importantly, through prayer. We believe that those things can make a difference for the children and families here in Tucson and for our staff who do this incredibly tough job each and every day. We truly believe that this partnership can reduce the time that children spend in at-home care, that they can preserve and restore families, and that we can prevent removals and that children ever come into foster care because people are responding to the first sign that there's trouble in the family. So the question is, why the church? We believe that that's the most natural and logical answer. The church knows how to respond. The church knows how to care. They care for the children, the sick, the lonely, the oppressed. And most importantly, the church believes that all things are possible. I want to just put this all into perspective and just share a quick story. Recently, and you've seen the headlines, we were experiencing a huge backlog of reports that we had not responded to. So I got a tough decision to make, and I deployed all my staff available to go out on those reports, me included. And so one of the reports that I went out on involved a mother of 2 children. The concerns were neglect. At the time of the report, mother was living in a homeless shelter here in Tucson. When I located the family, they had moved out of the shelter and were in an apartment. And as I interviewed mom to find out more about the situation, one of the questions I like to ask is, tell me about your natural supports. Who do you reach out for help? Who's there for you? Your family, your friends, your church? And this is what she shared. She had left the children's father due to domestic violence, and that's why she was in a homeless shelter. She didn't have any family here in Tucson. But while at the shelter, our church had adopted her children and her for Christmas. She pointed to 2 bikes in this small apartment. She said, they bought the kids bikes and bikes, and she goes, even bought me some nice things. And so while at the shelter, the church had invited the family to attend church. She said the kids went, but she didn't. She was angry with God who had taken her mom at a young age, so she sent the kids, and she stayed back. And later, her children had left the shelter, and her daughter continued to go to church and encouraged her to go to church. And she finally looked up at me and she said, I'm going to church again, and now I'm reading my Bible. And she said for the first time she felt free. She felt good about where she was at, and for the first time she was able to provide for her children. She had moved out of the shelter into a small apartment. A local agency in the community had paid her rent until she was able to get on her feet. Someone reached out to her, listened to her story, helped her file a restraining order, and her rent was paid for 3 months. She since found a job, and she was excited that she had rent saved up to pay next month's rent on her own, and was excited that the next day she was going to go buy herself a cell phone. So she looked at me and she says, we're doing okay. And I couldn't have agreed more. This is a family that could have ended up in the system. These are children that with everything they were dealing with could have ended up in the foster care system. But they didn't, and the reason why, the difference with this family is that someone reached out. Someone responded. Someone knew there was trouble and made a difference for this family. And so we have to believe that if the church and the community can prevent removals, then we have to believe that the church and the community can also restore and rebuild families and help us reunify these children to families that are safer, stronger, and healthier than when they left. So again, I appreciate the time today. I appreciate the opportunity, and I especially thank God that He has given us this opportunity and has opened this door for us. So thank you.
Testimony of what the power of Christ can do through a congregation who cares and the difference that it makes. Now, one thing that Pauline didn't get to is what's on the backside of the sheet, and that is what can we as congregations also do beyond reaching out to moms or parents who need help to keep their kids from entering the foster care system. But the people who work in the foster care system need love too. They need to know that there are people who care. And just in this one little statement here, that the number of people that leave the foster care system in terms of those who are the workers is extremely high because of burnout and fatigue. And they need us to care and come alongside them too. And there are ways tangibly for you to be able to do that on the back of the sheet. And I would encourage you to prayerfully consider what you and your congregation might be able to do.
Let me say one last thing here, because this is the time. No. Okay. Boxing out, let's do the game today. Actually, I love it. If you look here at the bottom of the page, all of this is geared to you all coming to a training that can allow your church to get involved. We want you to come back and just leave a name and number. We've got our trainings on May 2nd, 16th, and then also on the weeknight also. And the idea is to have your church involved. Take this to your pastors, take this to people that you know of, and basically partner with one of the DCS offices. And there's a map back here. We've already got one, and Pantel's got one, we're sharing one, and there's other opportunities and other offices available around town. See strategically how you can get involved in your community with an office next to you. But the training is the perfect part to get involved in a lot of different ways. So we want to ask you to really look at that seriously. Again, along the same lines as the church-school partnership, the same network that we're going to be going through. So it's pretty exciting.
It's kind of like WWF tag team. One of the other things that David mentioned in there is the importance of how important marriage is to the stability of the family, and that's one of the topics we covered last year. I just want to say that as a result of that seminar that we did last year at TMA, one church in our community is actually putting on a Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage seminar with Mark Gungor. It's the video conference, but it's at St. Andrew's Presbyterian on Friday, April 10th, Saturday, April 11th, and it's only $10 per couple. So if you know some couples, we've got some flyers over on the round table over there. You can pick those up. Because this is something, again, that if we can get our marriages stronger, it's going to mean a lot to our families as well. Now, we do have a little bit of time, so I've got the help of the family discussion questions and some prayer points on your table. So they're the ones that have a pretty picture in the middle. But first of all, let's just spend about 5 minutes or so in discussion questions and the help of the family. The first question I want you guys to talk about around the table, just share it openly from David Lynn sharing today. Is there anything it illuminated or made clearer for you? And then the second question is, what about the new partnership between churches and DCS? Were there any takeaways for you today? Okay, we're going to wrap up the discussion time and we're going to go into the help of the family prayer points. What we have on the sheet for you is a scripture verse from 1 Peter 4:10. I want you to read the verse. I want you to contemplate what the verse says. And then I want you around the table to pray, asking God and the Holy Spirit to reveal to each of you the gifts He has given you that He wants you to use to administer grace in its various forms to your families. Just pray around the table. Read the verse, contemplate it for a moment, and then just pray together.
Thank you.